on, what I'd like you to do is I've given you a demonstration, and I do want you to write now in your own words the conclusion. Now, when we talk about the conclusion, I've given you some ideas already, but I also want you to notice that even though we were speaking in chronological order, we had a focus for each of our paragraphs. We went from, let me go to the other color actually here. We went from wealth to poverty and the lesson that was learned, to contentment. And so go ahead and refer to that because that was the main focus of each paragraph. Now, we're not doing it as though we had a three-part thesis so much. Does this make sense to you that there are some differences between this and an analytical essay? So it's not a three-part thesis if you go back to the last sentence of the introduction paragraph, but we did have a structure, and you want to refer to that structure in your conclusion. In addition, you would want to choose a biblical integration. So we could pick up, for instance, a verse like Paul says in Philippians, where he says, "In whatever state I am, therein I have learned to be content, whether I have a great deal or very little." But that's not a really wonderful biblical integration. Can you explain why? That's an okay integration, but there are better choices. Why? What's wrong with that passage? So I want you to start thinking through your passages more carefully. That passage says they've learned both how to be content with a lot and how to be content with a little. But is that what these two have really learned? No. What they've learned, the emphasis more tends to be a little is better than a lot. So you have to think through, well, what scripture would teach that? Now, if I were doing an analytical essay, I might want to lean on his theme and think, well, that theme is an okay theme, but really there's a better, more complete, fuller expression of the theme that takes into account the issue is not really the wealth or the poverty, but the state of one's heart. Okay, and so then you could develop a stronger theme-oriented essay, but that's analytical. That's taking his theme and thinking about it, evaluating its strengths and weaknesses. Okay, for a narrative essay where I'm just stating his theme, I want my biblical integration to support or contradict if it needs to, depends on the theme, but mostly probably to support the theme of the author, right? Which is often what you do anyway. But think about it harder. Some of you guys choose a scriptural support that isn't that strong. All right, now, what are you then going to do for your homework? Let's pause and talk about that 1 minute before we're finished with this writing section. So the short story that you will be reading for homework will be Work, Death, and Sickness by Leo Tolstoy. It is a legend that he retells, known with the South American Indians. And the one we had was more like a folk tale, but similar to a legend. Might have a little less of a story form, but it does have a story form. And I want you to take the model that we just did together and make it the model for what you do. Now remember, there are several things I look for. I look for all those things we talked about. The title and the author, background, a thesis in the first paragraph, which is the intro. In the body paragraphs, paragraphs 2 through 4, I will look for the main idea. And remember, it'll probably be chronological order here. Okay. I will look for 3 examples and a quote, just like we've gone over, okay, for each of them. And then in the conclusion, I will look for the statement of the, again, your thesis is going to be your theme, right? Statement of the theme in different words. Don't just pick up the same words. I know some writers teach that, but I think that's actually a real poor model, because it starts looking like you just cut and paste the intro to the conclusion, which is really boring to the reader. Okay, so make sure you're saying it in new words, and then you want to think in your mind, what have I learned from this story? Include that, and include your biblical integration. Okay, so that should be enough, I think, for you to develop the assignment there.